Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print 3D channel. Today is August 25th, and that means day 237 of the 3DP 365 project. And on today's episode, we printed out these very cool retro filament spool keychains, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining me here for day 237 of the 3DP 365 project. On today's episode, we printed out these really cool retro filament spool keychains, and these are some really cool prints. And the reason why I was going to print something like this is I recently got some new filament from Matter Hackers, and this is some of their blonde yellow, or just blonde as it's called on the label. And I wanted to print out a sample, and normally I would just run a Benchy. But a Benchy is really for testing the printer, not really testing out the color of the filament, how it's going to look. I mean, you could use it for that, but there are other things you could print. And I found this really cool filament spool keychain. And I thought this was a really cool idea because you can use this for multiple things. Not only to do a quick print sample to see what the filament color looks like when it's printed, but you could just have this as a keychain to really represent 3D printing. Or if you're running a 3D printing service, these are really cool little filament samples that you could possibly even send out to a possible client and show them the different colors of filament as printed. Or maybe you have a bunch of filament in some containers that you actually can't see into the containers. And these would make a really cool signifier to let you know what filament is in those containers. So these really do have a lot of different purposes besides just being a keychain. And they come in three parts. There's two parts to the spool holder, the spool outline, or the spool itself. There's the top and the bottom piece, and they print out pretty easy. They do print face down, so you are going to see a little bit of stringing or bridge artifacts, because Simplify 3D doesn't treat those little areas as bridges, it just treats them as top layer, so it's going to look a little bit funky in there. But I still think it looks really, really cool. And then you have the little filament spool itself, and those print out really, really easy. And all these prints took less than an hour to print. So this is a really good way to print out a sample of the filament to see what it looks like printed. Because as you know, sometimes when you print out filament, it may get a little darker, it may get a little lighter, it may come out matte finish, or even come out somewhat glossy. So this is a really good test because it gives you a good little sample of what the filament will look like. And then it's a really easy assembly. You just slide all the parts together and put a little drop of super glue on them. And I printed a couple of them. I printed 4 of them so far. And I printed all the little black parts first, and then I have just the file for the filament part on my little SD card, so every time I open up a new roll of filament and I want to see what it looks like, I can just print out a little bit of samples. And we downloaded these from Thingiverse, and once we had them downloaded, we sent them over to Simplify 3D in our 2 little build plates. I put 4 up of the spool holders, and I printed those in Matter Hackers Pro PLA Series black filament. And then I put a single filament spool onto the build plate, and I did use 0.2 millimeter layer height for the spool itself. But for the actual spool holder, the spool outline itself, the spool part, I did a multiple process in Simplify 3D, and I'll tell you why I did that. Because I wanted to use the new gap fill feature in Simplify 3D, but I didn't want to use up the gap fill feature for the center rod that goes to the center of the spool it goes through. So I set up a multiple process to stop right when it got to the center part and turned off the gap fill so it would just print this out separately as a, well, not separately, but individually as a separate part of the print with none of the gap fill working. And that's a really cool way to save a little time in plastic. And the only reason why I did that is I didn't want to have the extruder jumping around a lot and doing a lot of retraction settings. I thought it would be better just to print the outlines of that. And plus it's inside and it's so small, it's not going to need all that stability. So, and I also printed these out at 40 millimeters per second for the little spools, the little filament parts, and 35 millimeters per second for the actual holder part, the shell of the spool holder. And all the prints turned out perfect. I don't have any problems with the prints whatsoever. They're very, very clean. And I really do love this model. It's such a cool idea to have like a little sample roll of filament for your rolls of filament to show people or put on your keychain, or like I said, to signify what you might have remaining inside your filament container. So this is a very practical print. Well, that about wraps it up for day 237 of the 3DP 365 project. If you're looking to support the channel, check out the affiliate links down in the description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share those videos, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.